we're live. We are live, everybody. How to always-ish stay on your diet is what I'm going to be talking about today. I have been all over the place. I have been in Ireland. I've been in Scotland. I've been in Massachusetts. I've been from Singapore to Baltimore and everywhere in between. Lots of travel. Recently drove my daughter down to drop her off at college. And so I've been doing a lot of stuff. But the training has been amazing. And the diet has been still spot on. Not all the time, always. And that's why we say always-ish. But the diet's been very, very good. And also today, celebrating my 25th wedding anniversary to an actual girl who I think is super pretty. So I made that work somehow, but I'm not really sure how that happened. I just won't ever say anything about it, and hopefully I can keep skating along the way that I have. But in my travels, when I came back from traveling and stuff, I threw up a couple pictures on like Instagram, or maybe it was like something from YouTube or something like that. And I saw somebody had the comment of saying, like, that it's awesome, like you're still shredded, but it seemed like you've been traveling a lot. And so, how are you sort of holding it together? And to me, like, there's so much more than just the diet that comes into play with this. The mindset is really critical. And the way that I like to look at this is like, what is your reaction? What is your go-to? What is your reaction? What's a reasonable reaction? What would be a reasonable reaction for you to be celebrating your diet? Like what would that look like? So let's say it is your anniversary. Sounds reasonable that you might go to dinner with your significant other. Sounds reasonable that you might get dessert. Sounds reasonable you might get the appetizers you like. Like, all of that sounds very reasonable, right? But what if we're like, you know what, the anniversary day, we're just going to have a blowout for 2 weeks. We're just going to eat whatever we want for 2 weeks straight, not pay attention to like any walking or running or lifting or anything. Just no exercise and just eat as much as we want. That is not a great reaction. That doesn't sound reasonable to me. Additionally, it shouldn't even sound fun to anyone, because, I mean, not that I can tell you what you should think and not think is fun, but the untangled web that you'll have to untangle after 2 weeks of doing that is probably too much. So you have to have like parameters. You have to have rules. You have to like figure out a way to live by some sort of code. And for me, I take a lot of discipline. I take a lot of joy, rather. I get a lot of joy from discipline. And I think you can learn, because I've learned it over the years. I wasn't always good at this stuff. I was good with my diet. In fact, I used to have cheat days. And they were huge. It was like a big event, this cheat day. It was very unreasonable. And I did that a lot when I was younger, and it wasn't healthy. It wasn't smart. But at that age, I was able to maintain my weight because I was young and because I was active. And luckily I was already into like lifting and stuff. And this is like when I'm like 20 that I was doing some of this stuff. And it didn't work for very long. Like, I did that for maybe, I don't know. I guess I did that on and off. Not even so much off. I did that like probably almost every week for probably like a year or two. And then it started to not work. And then I started to have to make different arrangements. I couldn't have like a full cheat day, because the cheat day was almost like a cheat weekend. And then I had to pull it back to a cheat day. And then I had to pull it back to a cheat meal. And then I had to pull it back to where I'm at today, where I really don't have anything that I would even call a cheat, because I like to make room for all the food that I eat, even if it's something that's off plan, even if it is a pizza. Like, I no longer consider pizza a cheat. And the reason why I don't really consider it a cheat for me is because I have it so few and far between that it's not significant. It's no points against my diet necessarily. My son had a screening for his short film recently at our house, and we ordered a bunch of pizza. I was like, you know what? When I have pizza, when the pizza comes, I'm going to eat some pizza. I ate like 3 or 4 slices of pizza, I think, maybe 3. And then, I don't know, maybe an hour or 2 went by and I had like 3 more. It was great. And that was it. 6 slices of pizza. 6 just not like not big ass slices or anything, not necessarily small ones, but like maybe medium size, I'd say. I had 6 slices of pizza. Probably maybe Ryan, you can look it up. 750 calories or something. I don't know. I might have dipped a little bit of them in ranch dressing and stuff like that too. So, yeah, 6 slices of pizza. I don't know, 700-800 calories, something along those lines. And by the way, I have a rule for pizza. You have to eat the crust. And the reason why you have to eat the crust is because the crust is the only part of the pizza that's actually fat-free. And so you have to eat it because it's just straight carbohydrate. And you can get yourself maybe a little full off the crust, and that way you could maybe end up eating 1 less slice of pizza if you're trying to be less fat.
You wanted a estimate for 6 slices, right?
Sure.
It says 6 slices is 1,500 to 1,800 calories.
I was way off. No wonder why I'm so fat. Yeah, well, that makes sense. A couple hundred calories per. 1,500 calories. That's awesome. That's actually great news. But anyway, so that's the thing to think about is like, you know, how do we make some of these meals, or how do we make them reasonable? And the way that you have a reasonable cheat meal, I mean, there's a couple ways you can do it. You can make your own, which for some of you might not be as fun. It might not be as rich in flavor, but it's going to be less calories. Like I could have ate double that amount of pizza at home for that amount of calories. Or I could have cut the calories in half, which I've done before. I made some sourdough at my house before. Get some sourdough from the Costco brand that they have. Throw that. It's already cooked, but you throw it in the oven to kind of heat it up. And you cut the thing in half, throw some mozzarella cheese on top of there. Just put on whatever you want pizza-wise. Some tomato sauce, and it just comes out amazing. It's not as good as the pizza that I ordered. It's not as convenient as the pizza I ordered, but it was still awesome. And even at my house, we've done this before. We've made some pizza at home, and we've ordered some pizza as well, because we kind of know that there are different flavors. Like the homemade pizza is dope, and it's great, and it's fun, and you make your own, right? But sometimes you want that like flavor of that particular pizza, you know? And anyway, on my son's birthday, our son's party that we had for his screening of a short film, we ordered Round Table. I figured I'd tell you guys the type of pizza, because I know some of you fat guys are really interested. Like, what kind of pizza was it? It was Round Table pizza, and we had probably maybe 16 or so different types of pizza. We had all of it. We had every kind you could think of. So anyway, it was delicious, but I'm staying on my plan all the time, and I'm making room for stuff on my plan whenever needed. And how often is it? Let's see, before the pizza, it's been a long time since I ate like a candy bar. It's been a long time since I've had fast food. You know, for a lot of people, and I've said this before about like, you don't necessarily need a diet, you need to figure out a way not to binge, but you don't necessarily need a diet or just a way to not binge. But in addition to that, you need to figure out a way to get away from fast food, to get away from pizza, to get away from ice cream. Like, these are just simple things that aren't so simple for a lot of people, because they're so intertwined with these foods. They're so addicted to these foods. They're so stuck on these foods. And I was for years too. And here's what I think is the way to get yourself untethered, to cut the chains away for good, is to select a diet that doesn't feel like much to you. Select the right plan, because if you select the right plan, then your plan will allow for enough variety of things to where you don't feel the same need or urge towards these crazy, spectacular cheat meals. You're just going to feel the urge to want it less and less over time. The more dialed in your diet is, not dialed into you getting shredded necessarily, not dialed into you losing weight, but the more dialed in your diet is for helping you with your hunger, helping you with your satiation. And I think the best route to go for that, there's multiple routes to go for it. But I think one of the best routes that you can go for is with a low fat diet. And the reason why the low fat diet can be so great for this is because the amount of food that you can eat. You can eat a lot of potatoes. You can eat a lot of rice. You can eat tons of vegetables, which you can eat on any diet, by the way. But you can eat a lot of starches, a lot of rice, a lot of potatoes. And then on top of that, you can eat a lot of lean meat, but you just have to get lean meats, and you want to keep your fats low. We've talked about this many times before about keeping your fats low. How low is the fat supposed to be? Well, let's just say like to start out with less than 50 grams of fat a day. Okay, we'll just start there. Ideally, I'd like to get you down to around 30 grams of fat a day and keep you there for a bit. Keep you there for a month, 2 months, 3 months or so. And if you have any symptoms, you don't feel great, libido or something's going down, or any of these things that are happening to you that can potentially happen to you, but they shouldn't happen to you because you shouldn't be in a caloric deficit. You should be hammering food. And if you are in a caloric deficit, it should not feel like it. The caloric deficit is going to be the most detrimental thing towards you wanting to have a crazy cheat meal. That's going to leave you being less reasonable. The less food that you eat, the less reasonable you're going to be. And that's why you don't skip breakfast and some of these things that maybe we practiced in the past. If you skip breakfast, you might find it works for a day or two. You might find it feels pretty good for a day or two. But ultimately, what you'll most likely find is that it's going to leave you to a point where you're not satisfied and where you're going to want to eat a lot more. And you'll eat a lot more later on in the evening. And that's when you find yourself snacking. And that's when you find yourself getting these weird cravings. Sorry, my John Cena and Stone Cold are not cooperating. They're fighting over here on my table. You're going to find yourself wanting more if you steal from your breakfast in the morning. And you might not notice it at first. You might think, Smelly, you know what you're talking about. That's not the way my body works. My body's a little different. I'm not hungry in the morning and da-da-da-da. Well, just wake up and have, some sort of resemblance of some food in the morning, and you will see what I'm talking about. Now, you can make the mistake of eating a little bit too little in the morning, and that can end up making you crazy hungry at 11 o'clock. So that's not a bad thing. That just means your metabolism, to me, it means your metabolism's revved up. Your body's fired up, and your body wants to burn calories, and it wants you to give it more calories, which is fine. But not maybe for everybody, it's going to be hard to get to food, right at 11 o'clock and stuff like that. So make sure you eat enough food at whatever time it is that you eat. And then obviously you're going to want to make sure you have some food with you, because that's the other thing that's going to cause your cravings is not being prepared. Not being prepared is going to really throw you into a potential binge, and potentially throw you into stopping at fast food on the way home. One of the ways to stop binging, one of the ways to stop disordered eating is to eat. Eat a lot of food. Cole Robinson was right about what he's been saying recently. He's very accurate with this. He's like, most fat people can't eat. They can't eat the way that you would think they would eat. They can't eat the amount of food that you would think that they could eat in a day, and day in, day out. He's talking about. He's not talking about just one meal. he's talking about, because look at it, like why the professional eaters, right? Ryan, maybe you can bring up some clips of some of the professional eaters, the hot dog, contest or whatever, the Nathans. And, you got Joey Chestnut, who's the reigning champ, who's the GOAT, the greatest of all time. And there was like Kobayashi and a couple of those other people. And they're all thinner. Not everyone's super thin. But I know Kobayashi was like shredded. He was like totally ripped. Somebody with larger mass in the stomach, they're not going to be able to eat and get that kind of pressure. Joey Chestnut, I'm not saying he's like ripped or anything, but he he's not 400 or 500 pounds, right? And I don't know, he's consuming like freaking like 40 hot dogs or something like that. It's absolutely amazing how these guys are able to do it. But even just like most professional eaters in general, and I'm sure someone's gonna be like, oh, what about so-and-so? I'm sure there's plenty of big fat professional eaters out there, but normally it's difficult for people that are really heavy to eat nearly the amount that you may think. So when it comes to like trying to really, blunt some of these hunger signals, the key factor is that we keep ourselves full. And whether you're big or you're small, it only takes a certain amount of food to do that. And also, when you're eating lean meat and starches together, you get full very quickly. You get filled up very quickly. And also you have to, the hard part here, I think this is the hardest part, is to try to make these foods taste good for you. I found it to be fairly easy for me, but I've been working on this for many, many years. That's another thing that can end up interfering. That's another thing that can be a potentiator of your cheat meals, is you not cooking food that's palatable enough. You got to cook stuff that tastes good. You got to make stuff that tastes good. Now, you don't need to be a chef or a cook or anything for any of this stuff. And people ask me all the time how I cook stuff. But it's simple, man. Chop stuff up, throw it in a pan and season it, because when you chop it up, it cooks a lot faster, first of all. And then secondly, you get the seasoning, you get to get every morsel of seasoning on there. And then you blend that with some rice, or blend that with some vegetables and rice, or blend that with some potatoes, and it's friggin' amazing. It's not hard to make these foods, and just because these foods don't have fat in them doesn't mean they have to taste like crap. They should still taste really good. I have a lot of different go-tos, but main thing that I eat is steak and rice. Just like steak and rice, or chicken and rice, or turkey and rice. I'll do turkey, rice, and marinara sauce, or I'll do turkey, rice, and salsa. I'll do turkey, rice, and like what I did the other day is I did turkey and 93.7 lean ground beef, some mozzarella cheese, rice, and some tomato sauce, and it was unbelievable. It was so damn good. I don't normally put cheese in there, but I was like, you know what, this is going to make everything taste a lot better, so I'll just do it this way. And it was freaking awesome. But these days, I'm not just eating rice and potatoes. I'm also eating pasta. I'm eating a lot of fruit. I'm also eating a lot of sourdough. I found that for me, it's harder for me to have my weight trend downward when it comes to eating pasta. But for some reason, when it comes to the sourdough bread, it doesn't seem to affect me the same way. Maybe because I'm eating less of it. I think with the pasta, I tend to like eat a lot. Like what it does is it encourages me to eat throughout the day, which is probably a really good thing, because I need to eat and need to kind of hold on to this muscle mass, right? And so that's kind of nice that it's encouraging me to eat, but it also may be encouraging me personally to eat a little too much. So I don't know. I got to probably play around with that more. I haven't even ventured into like trying to get like a gluten-free pasta or anything. I have no idea if that has any bearing or does anything for me personally. But it would be worth looking into, because maybe I could have better outcome with a different kind of pasta. Because as I'm saying, it seems like I have better results with rice than I do with pasta. But that's what a lot of bodybuilders will find. They'll find sometimes they do better with a sweet potato versus a regular potato. Like, find these like really weird, stupid, almost insignificant things that maybe only matter to you. But how do you stay on the diet, when you're traveling? How do you stay on the diet when you're doing all these different things? You stay on the diet by having these other things in your life going on, by simply choosing a diet that has food in it that you enjoy. And you might tend to get a case of you might be like, oh, F it, I'm just going to eat this or just eat that. You can do that on occasion, but just don't get yourself too far away from that. Don't get yourself too far away from your nutrition. Don't get too far away from the progress that you already made, because the question I have for you is, how is being fatter going to be more helpful? How is gaining weight going to be more helpful? How is it going to help you out of whatever the situation is, the stressful thing you have going on, whatever these things are that are going on? Why? Like, you explain to me why these foods have to go along with this particular situation. They don't have to. It's still a choice. It's still, I know it's difficult. I know it can be difficult for sure. I understand that. But you're on a mission. And also, while you're on this mission, there's no one saying that you can't come off of it a little bit here and there. It's just, do yourself a favor and don't come off of it for any real length of time. What's a reasonable amount of length of time? Well, let's just talk about it flat out. Like, what would make sense? Taking a day off of it. Yeah, that sounds fine. Taking 2 days off of it. Well, if we're talking about taking 2 days off of it and we're talking about out of the month, then sounds more reasonable. If we're talking about taking 2 days we're talking about taking 2 days out of the month, 3 days out of the month, still not so bad, right? But it has to line up with, what are you going to do if you have a day off? What's that look like? If that day off looks like crap, then you can't have any days off, really. Like, if your day off is not to really move and to just eat, that is not helpful. That's going to be very hurtful. And I think that a lot of people are doing this, and it's not even just people that are obese. This is like, a lot of people are making these kind of mistakes, because it's like, oh, I just need some reprieve. I just need to, I've been doing this. I've been working at it. And it feels that way. It feels that way. It feels like you've been working at it hard, right? But did it feel like you were working at it hard to gain the weight? Did that, you know what I mean? Like that, you have to go out of your way to gain excessive amounts of weight. And then from there, your body tends to just want to kind of hold it, and your body tends to just add weight, and it gets to be easier over time. And that's how you end up getting so heavy. It's a super unfortunate thing, but it does take a lot of time. It takes a lot of thought. Like, there's a lot of time and thought surrounded eating those meals to get bigger, bigger, and bigger. And again, though, getting bigger like that is not helping any of the other situations that you have going on in your life. So I'm not saying these things to be an asshole. I'm saying these things to try to keep you a little bit more tethered to your nutrition and to your fitness goals, so you don't end up getting too far away from it. But the way that you don't get too far away from it in the first place is to have a diet that's enjoyable, or to have some sort of flexibility within your diet where you can switch or you can change from one thing to another. Maybe you switch from doing a low fat diet into doing like a low carb diet, because maybe you're just tired of the diet that you're doing. Maybe you're sick and tired of doing low fat and you're bored of it, and you just need to do something new. You need to do something different. And because you want to make that change, you simply just do it. You just end up going into eating some meals that are more low carb. that could be your way out. And then you don't have to even cheat. You don't even have to, but now you're just going to follow some of the low carb options. You're not doing both diets at the same time. But just imagine a scenario where a family member is like, hey, I'm cooking up a brisket, this weekend we're having a barbecue. Well, that's a perfect opportunity to flip. If you're mainly low fat, it's all right. Well, maybe, on Friday or something, I'm going to, go more on a higher fat diet, not even necessarily high fat diet, but just on Friday, you go through a little bit of a low carb day, and then Saturday's the barbecue and you enjoy it, and maybe do the same thing Sunday, and then boom, Monday you return back to your low fat diet. What would be wrong with that? There wouldn't be anything wrong with doing that. And for me, when I was traveling, those are the things that I did. I was like, okay, well, maybe sometimes I'll be low carb. Maybe sometimes I'll be low fat. And then I was also like, well, maybe sometimes I'll just be in the middle, because it's just easier with this particular meal, because you get like mixed macro meals at some of these places that you eat at when you're in Ireland and Scotland and stuff like that. And also it's fun to go to like nice restaurants. It's fun to enjoy stuff. And that was one of the questions that came in about me traveling. They're like, do you have any fun when you're traveling? Like, yeah, I have tons of fun. I have a great time. I go on a lot of walks. I visit a lot of places. I have a lot of cool experiences, a lot of cool experiences with my family, a lot of cool experiences with the food, the local food, and with some of the drinks and so on, and some of the just other things that other people enjoy. I might not overindulge on any of it. And also I'm not sitting there being like a picky eater, like only eating like a little tiny bit of food or anything. It's just that like when I was in Ireland, they had a smoothie shop like right next to my place that we were staying at. So I was like, well, I'll just go there tomorrow morning. I'll have that and then kind of see how my day unfolds. And I had that in the morning, and then lunchtime came around, and I can't even remember I can't remember what I had at lunch. Anyway, I just remember that like that fit pretty good with most mornings, just having that smoothie, kind of almost sugar diet like. And then other parts of the day I had to kind of switch, and I had to, change. There was another day where I was like, oh, let's go get a proper breakfast, and a proper breakfast in Ireland is going to be something that has a lot of fat in it. And so I had sausage links and eggs and some type of bacon and a bunch of stuff like that, with a little bit of carbohydrate, not much, but it was kind of on a lower carb side. So I kept, most of the rest of that day more on like a lower carb end. And if I didn't, who cares? Like you are, on vacation, you are trying to have a little bit of reprieve. But I know people who are like, oh, I only do this on vacation. And then they're like, but it's always something. It's like vacation, holiday. Like you said that at the last birthday, and you said that at the last, this celebration, and you're always celebrating, you're always the same weight, or you're always fatter every time I see you. So whatever it is that you're trying to lay out there to me, whatever it is, it's not working. Need a better plan. So the way that you stick to your diet the best is to have a diet that you enjoy doing. That's always number one. Number two is, why not have multiple diets to be able to maybe switch to just here and there? I'm talking about briefly and occasionally. You could probably even do it more often if you wanted to, as long as you can make sense of it. But in opportunities where you're like, I don't really know what I'm going to be eating, then you can kind of become a chameleon going into these particular situations. When it comes to some stuff, when it comes to like pizza or pasta, or you just need to make better food choices than that. Like, just don't order that. Like, just, or like, what's wrong with ordering for the table and getting some, maybe getting some pizza, or maybe one of the kids gets a pizza and you have a bite of their pizza. Like, just little things like that. They're going to make everything so much easier for you. But for me, with what I've been doing with the low carb diet, and I've seen the comments from you guys too. This diet has really crushed cravings. You want to crush cravings, you crush your cravings with sugar. You want to crush your cravings, you crush your craving with carbohydrate. Obviously, it'd be nice to throw in a big lather of fat in there too, but that's not part of the plan. The plan is to keep the fats really, really low. Maybe occasionally, maybe that's where you have like a cheat, and maybe that's where you eat something a little fattier. Maybe you're like, on the weekend, I'm going to have a tri-tip. Big deal. Sounds good. You know, I don't know how much you're going to, and how much you're going to eat. Like, what's reasonable? What's a reasonable amount? 2 pounds, 1 pound? I had 1,600 calories worth of pizza. And the last time I ate pizza before that was probably like 3 or 4 months before that. And at that time, I think I remember having like 3 or 4 slices of pizza. So it was half the amount of, you know what I mean? Like, I want people to start to think about like what's reasonable. It's not reasonable. The way that we normally eat is not reasonable. We barely eat any food. We eat bullshit stuff. We stop at fast food and we do all this stuff way too much. And you stop at fast food because you have a craving, and you have that craving because you are recognizing, not always, but you're recognizing some sort of hunger. And if you were well fed and had good nutrition, you more than likely, you might still feel that. You might still smell that fast food when you drive by. But it's going to be less painful if you have the nutrition down, if you have the things right. So a lot of this stuff it's not easy to do, but there's ways that you can stick to your plan. There's ways that you can stick to your diet. When I'm traveling, I will pack stuff with me. I'm not going to pack stuff that I need to cook. You know, I'm not going to do stuff like that, but I do bring carnivore crisps with me. For this trip, I brought Bear, these different like freeze-dried fruit. BARE is the name of the brand. I brought a bunch of those with me. I brought my own protein powder with me. I brought the steak shake. I brought this is the whey protein, all from Within You brand. I brought some of my hydration. And the reason why I brought all those things is because I want to have like why bring a big thing like protein with me? Why bring the carnivore crisp with me? Well, yeah, I'm going to have protein at like these restaurants and stuff, but you never know what you're going to get at these places. Also, what it does is it gives me something to eat before I go out. So that way my decision-making skills are better. See, a lot of this is about decisions. A lot of this is about choices, making the correct choices. Yeah, and you can go to the Carnivore Crisp website, and you can type in the code Mark Bell, and I think you get like 20% off. So those are some good options. They're not inexpensive. It's an expensive product, but they're awesome. If you're looking for the leaner ones, chicken breast, eye of round, top sirloin, lamb is still a little on the leaner side. And if you like fattier stuff, then you go with the chicken skins, the brisket, some of those things. For those of you that are maybe more on like the low carb side, but I try to keep my meat bag that I make. I try to keep it super lean. I'll throw in a couple chicken breasts. I'll throw in a couple of the top sirloin, a few of the eye of round, and so forth, and have some good protein. Like I'll even eat that. I'll eat that on the plane. I'll also sometimes buy jerky. I buy like a particular type of beef jerky, and I throw that in the mix with everything too. And the beef jerky that I use only has like 2 grams of fat per serving. Rice cakes is something that I will like, not always like travel with necessarily, but that's a really good, carbohydrate source when you're traveling. Fruit, they have fruit everywhere. So Ireland, Scotland, I had fruit. They have it, they have it everywhere. There's really no reason why you can't have that. And then most places do have like some sort of lean food option. And every once in a while I'd go somewhere where you didn't really have much of an option. It was just like the options were crap. But just because the options are crap doesn't mean that I'm not going to eat French fries. Like for me personally, I don't care about French fries. So I'm not going to, it'd be really rare for me to eat some French fries. I don't care about them. But if you're someone that does enjoy French fries, then that's maybe where you just go, hey, you know what? There's really not a lot of options here. I'm just going to eat this. There was one instance where we ate somewhere and I just ordered this pork thingy because I just figured, the pork will probably be pretty lean. It'll probably be pretty good. And it'll probably be kind of a lot of meat. And shit, I was right. It was huge. There's a couple other things that came with it that, definitely aren't on my normal diet, but that's where you let the reins, you loosen up the reins a little bit on some stuff, because there's no reason for you to be so, crazy with your, and I think Ryan's pulled up some clips. This is where I got some like canned fish at a local store and just dumped it into a bowl, and I had some pasta and I had some tomato sauce, threw it all together, and it was awesome. Yeah, I cooked up some rice on the stove. And I swear to you guys, like you might think like, it seems gross. It doesn't seem appetizing. Like, why would you eat that way when you're in like another country? Why wouldn't you eat more of what they had? I still ate all the shit that they serve. I still ate all the stuff that they have. I still had all the authentic Irish stuff. I had all the authentic Scottish stuff when I was there. These are just extra meals to support me, to give me the nutrition that I need, and to set me up and to put me in a better position. So I'm at least semi-full most of the time, or at least, or at least I'm well fed enough to where I'm not making poor decisions with my nutrition, where I'm not just eating like scones and donuts and just like stupid stuff. Like what? Like, and I think that's what people do. They tend to think that that's like, I'm on a vacation. I'm going to do this, and I'm just going to look. It's one thing if you walk a mile and a half to the donut shop and you have a donut and you share it with your wife or like something, like that's, again, sounds totally reasonable. Like if you walk that far to the donut shop, maybe you get 2 donuts. You know what I mean? Like it's not really that much to worry about. But we just have to figure out these things in a more reasonable way. And I just continually think, even for myself, like I need to continue to do things in a more reasonable way. And over the years, I've been able to do it in a more reasonable way, but it's taken a long time. I used to have a lot of cheat meals, a lot of cheat days, but a lot of that's behind me. And if I am to bring some cheat stuff back in, it's not even going to be really a cheat. Like I mentioned earlier, it's going to just be just kind of put into the fold, just like I did with the pizza, or just like I did with this Dubai chocolate that I had with my my nephews. These are things that, like, I can make plenty of room for these things. I don't have to sit there and count and track the macros. Remember, I don't count calories. I don't track anything. While I'm there, I'm not, weighing myself while I'm there. I'm not like just thinking nonstop about like working out. But while I was there, I was like, you know what? Out of this course of these 12 or 13 days that we were gone, I was like, I'd love to lift some weights at least 2 or 3 times. And I'd love to do some body weight workouts at least once or twice. And that's what I did while I was there. And in addition to that, I ended up doing a lot of walking. So I probably worked out 6 times or so, 5 or 6 times in the course of that 13 days. And then nearly every day, probably walked around 20,000 steps, just because it's fun to walk around these cities and experience different stuff, see different people, see different things. And ended up having a great time. If there's any questions, we can answer a question or two if any questions came in from the live chat.
Yeah, we got a question from the Powerlifting Carnivore. It says, great content, always learning lots from you. What's the minimum fat intake for a shorter female?
I just like to kind of tell everybody to kind of start around 40 or 50 grams of fat a day is a good start. But you also can really try to bum rush those fats down to 0. Get those fats down to 10, 15, 20. You can get them really low. The only reason why I say like 50 for a lot of people is just because if you're going to eat 3, 4, 5 times a day, the fat grams are going to add up, and it takes a moment. It takes a little while for you to get used to the diet. It takes a little while for you to get used to having your fats be that low. And so it might take a little while. I mean, each meal that you have, has to have only like 5 grams of fat, 6 grams of fat, unless you only eat like once a day, which I wouldn't want to see anyone do. I don't think that's a good idea for this particular protocol. You want to make sure you're eating often, and you want to make sure you're getting your supply of protein in there. So yeah, usually I just tell people around 50 grams per day of fat to get started. But you could certainly start lower if you wanted to. And you're saying, for a shorter female, why don't we just lower it down to 50? Why don't we just lower it down to 30 and just say, hey, start there. But I just don't want you like being upset if you miss the 30 and you're at 40 here and there. You know what I mean? Like, just first couple weeks, give yourself a little leeway with it, and then get more and more strict. One thing that I found that is noteworthy is that, some people think, oh, you can eat as much as you want. You can't really eat as much as you want. Like if you're really pounding down the carbohydrates and stuff, the calories are going to are going to add up at some point. And yes, it is true. Your metabolic rate will go up. You'll burn more calories and stuff like that. Your body temp might come up a little bit and some of those things, but it still can be easy to out eat some of these diets. So just be a little careful, a little cautious with it's just not a good mindset to be in. Like, oh, I can't out eat. It's just like if you just sit there all day, every day, just smashing food, of course you can. And if you're not moving. So I think movement and exercise and even lifting to a certain extent is really important with any nutritional protocol, but with this one in particular, because you're relying heavily on these carbohydrates, and lifting weights is very glycolytic, meaning it has a high demand on your glycogen. And so that's what you want to be doing. And that's going to be something that will help you to, it'll help support your muscle. It'll help you to, be a little bit stronger during your workouts. Your output will be a little bit better. And that's where you want to be. And that's why you want to make sure that you're not under eating. At the same time, there's really no reason to like overeat. There's really no reason to force feed anything. But make sure you're getting that nutrition in. And for you, I would say, just maybe keep those fats like under 30, and maybe just give yourself some wiggle room there in the beginning so that you're not too pissed at yourself if you miss it.
Mario Robledo says, have you heard of or tried Mexican red rice with bananas? It works. You'll see.
I haven't tried Mexican red rice necessarily, but I've had rice and bananas before, and that's money. That's really good. Rice, bananas, and honey with some ground beef is really good too. I don't know if anyone's ever tried that before, or like honey, and even honey, rice, and ground beef is like awesome. It's kind of like the banana. But yeah, I mean, a banana is a great thing because, like, if you have chicken breast and you think the chicken breast is dry and you have that with a banana, it's awesome. Or if you have the banana and rice. So smart moves. I'll have to try the red rice. I've never given it a shot before.
Connor Kennedy says, how's the running?
0 running. So running's been awesome. How's the running? It's been perfect. Yeah, I haven't run in months. Still working on an injury in my foot. That's not quite worked out all the way. I have, a handful of appointments to, work on whatever the hell is going on in my foot. And hopefully I'll be able to get that out of there. It does feel quite a bit better, but it's still just lingering. I have some sort of heel pain. I try not to talk about it too much. I really never wanted to talk about it at all, but it just went on for so many months. And I'm like, I guess I got to talk about it because it's actually a thing. And I never wanted to manifest into a thing, but it's here. And it's whatever, I don't care. If I can never run again, then that would be fine too. I don't really give a shit. I don't believe that's true. I think that, a couple months from now, I think I'll be running, but it's just something that for whatever reason is taking a long time. I'm very grateful though for the stuff that I can do. And that's where my focus is. Whenever I get an injury, whenever I get hurt, I'm always like, okay, there's a couple things I can't do, but there's a shit ton of stuff I can do. So been doing a lot of sandbag stuff, tons of lifting. And it's also been nice to be able to like lose weight and manage my weight without any running. I mean, that's kind of how my weight loss journey started anyway. Coming down from 330 pounds, I did all that without running until I got down to around 240 or so is when I started to, or 250 or so is when I started to run a little bit. And I lost a little bit more weight from running. And I think that sprinting and stuff like that, which I would like to get into next, would have a profound impact on my physique. I think it would help me to even get even a little leaner, even a little bit more muscular. But it's not readily available to me yet.
Here's a comment from our member, Sean Wanzer. It says, like you just said, as long as I don't make it my mission to out-eat a low-fat diet, I sorta can just eat as much as I want. I guess it's more I can just not be hungry ever.
Yeah, you get to eat a lot, and that's great. And I think, what you're looking for in a diet is a diet that doesn't feel like a diet that doesn't feel like much, right? Because I've had some people say, hey, why are you always on a diet? And I'm like, what? Like, why wouldn't you always be on a diet? Why wouldn't you always follow some sort of like particular nutritional protocol? Like, it doesn't make any sense to not do that. I do know what they mean though. Like, so what I haven't been doing though is I haven't purposely cut calories. And I think that's important to note because to me, that's actually like somebody like dieting, I'm talking about diets versus dieting. Dieting is like you're putting your calories low in order to like lose. That's kind of the way that I view dieting, is to kind of be more of that vein. So anyway, yeah, I feel great with what I'm doing. I think it's a great way. It's a great diet to do that you are not noticing. Like if you can get yourself in a caloric deficit that you don't notice, that's the tits right there. That's the best. That's the best you're going to do, is to have something that's like that, to have something where you're like, I don't even really notice that there's much restriction. The only restriction you're going to notice or feel is just from the fat. And when I say feel it, I mean, you're just going to feel it not in terms of being lethargic or anything, but you're going to feel it in terms of like just being annoyed, because the food choices are always super lean. But once you get used to buying them and purchasing them and eating them, you're going to be just fine. And in an upcoming video, I'm going to talk about the fat palate as well, because I think that that's something we need to like discuss a little bit more. There are people that have a palate that is wired towards fat, and the people that have that fat palate, they need to figure out a way to kind of feed that monster so that they don't feel so restricted, right? Because any of the diets that you pick, the best one's going to be the one where you feel the least restricted, the one that you can follow for the longest, the one that you can do the most consistently, because that consistency is critical. And even in terms of like the neurons and shit in your brain, you want to keep going over that same thing over and over again with consistency to rewire your brain, to show your body like, hey, we know how to do this. We know how to lose weight. And you keep getting that positive feedback loop over and over again. Like, this is the right thing to do. This is the right thing to do. This is the right thing to do. That's really important. It's hard to get that positive feedback loop with a diet that just doesn't feel right, with a diet that you feel too restricted, a diet where you think it sucks. If you think the diet sucks, like, that's not great, right? And so some people are going to be a little bit more on the fat side. Some people are going to be a little bit more on the carb side. And you need to kind of pick, but you don't get the opportunity to pick both. You could potentially choose both if you choose both at different times. Like if you did one for like a week or two and then the other one for a week or two and like staggered back and forth or something like that, or occasionally took time off of the higher carb diet and went into lower carb diet, every couple days or, I mean, there's a lot of different ways you could do it to where you could figure out a way for you to get those fattier meats or something like that if you really wanted to. But in the long run, it's really just going to probably slow down your progress more so, and it will take away from some of this experimentation that you want to do. And so, take the low carb, take the low fat lifestyle, and start to really push it and see how you can make it work for yourself.
Here's a comment from Paul Blom. It says, flexibility and not depriving myself too much has been essential for sustainable fat loss. I went from 330 to current weight of 189. Let's go.
Damn, that's big time progress right there. That's huge, and again, just trying to figure out a way to make it feel like you're not like so restricted. How do you do that? How do you work that out? Now look, there's some people, like I watched the Biggest Loser documentary recently, and it was pretty wild to watch that. But some of the foods and some of the way that those people talk about food, it was like, holy shit. Like these two women that were on the show, they were talking about eating these like pot pies. And I'm like, I'm going to probably get some heat for this, but I think a pot pie is like gross. Like it's not even so, okay, maybe you think it tastes pretty good, right? And this is like a microwaved TV dinner bullshit, like pot pie thing. I think it was. Either way, a pot pie, like I don't think they're good anyway. But a pot pie is not worth it. Like it has so much fat in it. It's like astronomical amounts of fat. Just gravy in general. Like I'm not on board with gravy. Great, it's okay. Like I understand ranch dressing better than I understand gravy, but gravy, come on. I don't know. Maybe a little gravy on something. I'll throw a little gravy on some turkey or something just because turkey's kind of bland and dry. But I don't really want to use gravy. I'd rather use something else. It just happens to be that's what goes together on Thanksgiving, right? Anyway, some people have their palate wired to different types of food versus another. Like I always liked Ben and Jerry's a lot. Other people don't. Other people would rather have pizza. And there's some people that'd rather have both. I'm kind of more in the middle. I'd rather have both. And if I'm a sucker for anything, I would say, peanut butter cups are way up there. I really love peanut butter cups, and I also love cookies. But even as I'm talking about those now, when I used to talk about those on the podcast, I used to be like, man, it's been a while since I've had one of those. I'm going to go, like, I want to go get one of those. And then sure enough, within the next couple of days, I would be eating that, right? I don't feel that way anymore. I don't feel that way anymore at all. It's like, it's probably just the carbohydrate intake, and then getting those different flavors going on, eating the apples, eating the bananas, eating the oranges, eating the blueberries. Had a nectarine this morning. I love those things. Those things are great. Getting in some of these different foods, and then also making sure you're eating enough food. So that's a huge part of it, is like getting in proper calories is a big factor too. And it's something that we can't lose sight of. And when someone tells you that they went from being over 300 pounds down to 189 pounds, that's the only way to do it. The only way to do it is to feel satiated and satisfied at least some of the times. No doubt you're going to be hungry when you go from 330 to 189. Like you're going to be hungry. You're going to end up feeling hunger. But what you need to keep in mind is that even when you're your fattest and even when you're eating whatever you want, you still feel hungry. That's what I tell people all the time about being 330. When I was 330, I was still hungry. I was 330 eating whatever I wanted, whenever I wanted, no rules. And I was hungry. So would I rather be 330 and hungry, or would I rather be 230 and hungry? You know what I mean? Like you're going to deal with hunger. It's like part of the day. It's part of life. What about waking up hungry? Or what about like you just slept for 8 hours and you woke up and you're maybe not even that hungry? That's interesting. What's that? What's that about? It's showing you that like you ain't gonna die. You're fine. So we already know that you can deal with some hunger. You can brush up against it, but just don't let it become out of control, because that's going to lead to the binging. That's going to lead to the fast food. That's going to lead to the fried food and all that stuff that really just knocks our diet sideways. Any more questions?
That's a wrap on the questions.
Strength is never weakness. Weakness is never strength. Keep tuning in. Catch you guys later. Bye.